Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where we talk with top leaders about effective strategies that inspire success. So it's brought to you by 40 Accounting. 40 Accounting is our system company that helps small business do their basic bookkeeping, financial reporting, all the way to tax preparation. And more importantly, we help you with strategy around that well. If you want to learn more, go to 40accounting.com. Really excited to have our guest with us today, Matthew Stafford. He is the co-founder and managing partner of Build, Grow, Scale. He specializes in e-commerce revenue optimization, helping helping the brand scale profitably through data-driven. We love that. Data-driven type strategies. So we're going to geek out a little bit. Think of this, this is why this is relevant to you. If you have products and you're selling online, you want to listen to this conversation today. He stopped counting. He said over $400 million in online sales. They're probably closer to $1 billion now. And they really focus on conversion rate, using AI, and really helping customers to grow their business. Matt, welcome to the Measure Success podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, hey, let's get into this. Let's start with some of the core. What got you into it? Why did you decide to run a business like this?
Yeah, so I got started running traffic. My first online opportunity was a site called Teespring, where you put a design on a t-shirt and then you run Facebook ads at it and sell as many as you can. And the higher you sell, the more profit you make per shirt. And I had a couple of winners on that right away. And at the time, I was a brick and mortar business owner. But as soon as I realized that I could make some real serious money online and have the autonomy to work from wherever and not have weather matter, because I was in the concrete business, I got very excited. And the first 3.5 years in that niche, we did about 15 million in sales. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my thing moving forward. And I got into owning a website that was selling kitchen products. Well, I was really good at driving the traffic and thought like, okay, this is easy. Let's just keep on adding more things and it'll get more and more profitable. And as we added more and more things, the site became more and more complicated and we made less and less sales and started struggling. I ran into a guy that was teaching Google Analytics. He sold me 6 phone calls for $1,000. And over the next 6 weeks, we broke down what was happening on my site, made those changes, and our sales that were struggling went back to early on when we were crushing it. And I was like, okay, there's a lot going on here that I was 100% unaware of. And it's a lot more than just sending eyeballs to the traffic or sending the traffic to the website, because I hadn't even realized by adding all those things, my site was now taking 10 or 12 seconds to load and I had a 90% bounce rate. 90 out of 100 visitors that I was paying to go look at my website were leaving and never looking at it. So there was just a lot of insight and I was like, okay, there's stuff to figure out here. And when I do that, the numbers are pretty amazing.
That's really interesting of how you grew into it really organically. It sounds like, it's just like, whoa, obviously you're entrepreneurial or like, oh, this is interesting. Here's a new way to get into business. And then you grew. But I really love the concept of what you said there is like, I thought I knew something. And then just for $1,000, I mean, that was best $1,000 you probably ever paid, right?
For sure. Yeah, that's literally what launched this entire business of just data-driven insights and how everybody else at the time was teaching how to run traffic. And I was like, traffic's not the problem. We have a lot of eyeballs. The problem is, average e-commerce converts at 2 or 3% at best. And so if you think about that, I was like, I had 100 people click on an ad saying that they were interested in what I was selling, and only 2 or 3 of them bought. That feels broken. Everybody else wants to send another 100 visitors. I was like, if I get 2 or 3 of those 97 people that left, I just doubled my business on the same amount of ad spend. I think I'm going to figure that out first. And when we did that, everything worked better. And that's really the foundation of how this business started.
So once again, those who are listening, Matt has a legitimate, healthy, strong business. It's like, what is $1 billion sell? I was like, well, if that's selling Intel chips, that's not such a big deal. Well, actually, that'd be really helpful for that. So maybe NVIDIA chips, but from your perspective, you got to get over 30 employees, get a healthy company. And so you're really providing a lot of depth for a lot of different companies with this. What's the most common problem you see when somebody is engaging you? They're like, hey, we need help selling our product online? Like, I'm sure there's like three big things, but like, what's the number one?
Man, it's a toss up between, I really believe the website. That's what we work on. Most of the time, that's why they come to us. I would tell you the reason why I say it's a toss up is because I also believe that the 6 inches between the owner's ears matter just as much as the website. And when they get that correct, everything that they do on the website works better. And so I think that being in business, and we had a brief conversation before we started recording about how important your mindset is, in your business being successful. So I've seen a lot of people that have a very successful business that's just run very poorly. And so it ends up not being successful, but that's not the business's fault. It's the owners. And so there really is a twofold thing that I think you need to get both of them right to have a healthy and a successful business.
Okay. So we're going to dive into this a little bit more, because this is Matt's going to be able to blow us away with some data stuff, because we're talking more AI and how they're using that to help make sure things, it's so fascinating, right? That we can have all the right tools, but we forget sometimes what the goal of a business entity is. We're not talking about not-for-profit entities here. We're talking about companies that need to make a profit, cash flow to survive and thrive, hire employees to pay for our, all the things, right? The mortgage, our rent, pay for our kids' college education, right? Whatever it might be, that with things that we have in the future, we need a business to actually grow profitably. And sometimes people run businesses. I was just on a phone call earlier with somebody today, and they were so excited they hit that big dollar mark for them. Like they hit that big, for them, it was a right round number, big number for them, but it wasn't profitable. And so that's kind of ego, right? That's not, I would much rather have a business half the size that's highly profitable.
Yeah.
Right. Than a business that's double the size that's not profitable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. Like, so you run into a company and they're not, like, you've nailed the data stuff, but then they themselves aren't understanding the goal, right? Which is to create a problem. I'm curious, how do you help them? Because that's obviously not directly your job, but how do you help them overcome themselves to be better business owners?
Yeah. Well, I've found that spending a little bit of time and coaching them through those things, finding out what their unconscious stories are, and just making them aware of them is a lot of times all that's necessary. Most of us, our brain filters out what we believe to be true, and it filters everything else out. So a lot of times we can't get out of our own way, and having someone that you can have dialogue with back and forth that's not being judgmental, but genuinely cares about your success gives you the ability to see a lot of things that you haven't seen in the past. And that little opening, I think that's why most very successful business owners are so adamant about having a coach, because you can't see what you don't believe and you can't see what you can't see. And so you need someone to point that out, and having those types of people in your corner make a massive difference. We have a client right now. He, by far, I would say he's the most successful that I've ever dealt with. He came to me 3 years ago, just a hair over 3 years ago, and had only done about $10,000 in sales, which was, for him, it's a $2,000 average order value. So about 5 sales, not too many, but was just getting started, and but was also very coachable. And so he came to two workshops in the first 12 months, and we got him to $1 million in sales. And then he asked me to coach him, his brother, and their general manager. In year 2, we hit 13 million.
Wow.
Year 3, we hit 36.8. And this year, right now, he's around 5 million a month. And so I think he'll do probably closer to 70 million by the end of the year. And he's 31 years old. So,
Wow.
a lot of people think e-commerce, you can't get into it anymore, but this is a 3-year-old story. And, it's incredible to watch what you can do when you have the right mindset.
That first of all, wonderful story. And that's where I love always these great stories of just like came to you with $10,000 and now they're on a run rate for roughly 60 million, roughly 4 years later, right?
Yeah. 3.5 years. Yeah.
3 Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. And so for them, so they obviously had a solid. So I think it's important. They had a solid product, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is non-Amazon, correct?
Nope. No, yeah, we don't do. I'm not poo pooing on Amazon, but I don't have any understanding of it or knowledge. I've just never done anything around Amazon.
Yeah. So once again, from a listener standpoint, I just want to be aware of, right? A lot of great successful people. Matter of fact, Matt, you're saying your new CEO came from
Yeah,
Amazon driven
he
businesses.
built and sold 2 businesses on Amazon. Did very well, and then just realized that marketplace is getting harder and harder, and wanted to be involved in this side.
Right. So here you are. You're helping this company through. So as you're they obviously had a solid product,
Yeah.
right? Now let's talk about the data side. Like that's a big change, right? How did we go from $10,000 of sales to a $60 million run rate? What were you doing on the data side to help? Because nobody obviously had heard of him. If selling five
Yeah. No.
units a
Yeah.
year,
There was
right?
nobody. Yep.
Right. So how did you change that where all of a sudden people knew what he had and valued it, right? That's a very healthy company, right? It's a nice getting closer to that mid-sized company. We get to 60 million. It's a whole different view of the world when you get to there. It's fun. It's a lot of fun when you get to that stage.
Yeah, and he's highly profitable. Very highly
Yeah.
profitable.
Yep. Yep. What from a so you don't have to give specifics, but I am curious just from a tell me about the data. Like, what did you have to do to change how they were getting to market so they'd become known and to help create greater conversion? Like, what type of
Yeah.
details you have to do to get there?
Yeah. So I don't want to take all the credit for it because he's ridiculously smart and very coachable. So we don't do paid media. And to be honest, he had probably done, I don't want to make it up, probably close to 15 million in sales before he started running ads. So what he did was he realized that there was an opportunity with people that already had an audience for his product. And he went to them and created some relationships, and they drove traffic for him, and he paid them based off of sales made. So from day one, the sales that he made were, he only had to pay acquisition costs on actual sales made, not trying to build an audience and learn. And so that was really smart. And he did some really cool things to do that. So I'll give him credit for that. But the other part was, we obviously optimized his website so that when people did land, they bought. And it's an ongoing thing because a site that can do $1 million in sales isn't the same site that's going to do 60 million in sales. And so it's kind of growing and iterating over time, which I think that all e-commerce is doing that. I think really probably in the length that it's been around, we might be in the third inning. There's still a lot coming, a lot of growth, and a lot of maturation for the market.
So when going through data analysis, we mentioned before the call, you're saying, because I was curious how much AI was changing search, right? And how it's queuing things and seeing, and what are you seeing differently? But you had a different view. You're saying AI is really helping you out to do analysis. Explain what that means.
Yeah, for us, we're using AI to parse through a lot more data than we can actually do manually by ourselves. So an example, we can take all of the Shopify sales data. We can take all of your Google Analytics, GA4 and Tag Manager data. We can take all of your reviews, look at your lifetime value report, and put it all into a big, large language model, and then ask it to analyze the data and tell us what we don't see, or what are some insights that no humans ever come up with. And we've got better and better at asking it over the last few months. And the insights that we're getting are crazy good now. We've even played around with saying, hey, our average order value is $100 and our average conversion rate is 3%. In the next 90 days, we would like our average order value to be $125 and our conversion rate to be 5%. Build us a 90-day roadmap to get there. And it can use all of these different metrics. And instead of being very linear like we are with our mental, with how we process things, it can create a web of data that is far superior to anything that we've ever done. And so we're using these tools to kind of supercharge our results and our insights.
When you're referring to large language learning models, are you using ChatGPT? What are you using specifically?
We're using ChatGPT and Gemini because Google's, they have Google Shopping, they have all the website data and just they both come up with different insights. And so we're using both.
Yeah. Good, good, good. Yeah, I think that's, I want to be really careful for those who use AI a lot. And, I always want to be careful, like, how much, we don't know how much people use it or don't use it. We know people are increasingly using these tools, but we use multiple also. We've found different things create different value, depending on what your outcomes are. And of course, it's continuing evolving every day, right? These tools. And so I appreciate you saying, hey, look, we've been using ChatGPT, but we also use Gemini. And that's a value if you're in a Google suite, right? Gemini, the value is it can read everything that's in your existing databases and it's owned, so to speak, right? So you're not like sharing that out to the world, these different data pieces and usage. So that's very remarkable going through that. What has surprised you when using it? I mean, that was a pretty good story you just said there, by the way, but what has surprised you perhaps to the negative on using these?
Maybe just overanalyzing or like thinking. I would say probably what surprised us is most people ask very simple questions and then get a very simple response and think like, oh, this isn't that insightful. And so really what's been the most surprising is to like, we had one the other day. It was a 5-hour conversation going through their data and the brand analysis and the insights that you get to after 5 hours compared to asking it 3 or 4 prompts and getting frustrated with it are light years ahead of the average person's time frame and patience with yet to find insight. And so for us, and I'm not saying everybody on our team is even willing to do that yet, but the few that are, the insights that they're sharing with the rest of the team are quite profound.
Love that. I love that. Once again, it's a great example of like so many different things of like, yeah, you just literally spend a little bit more time at work, so to speak, and focused effort combined with an AI tool, just don't ask one prompt, keep on asking it additional prompts. And I love what you're saying is ask it harder questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Or just even ask it what its opinion is and what insights does it see that maybe we haven't uncovered yet. And it's crazy how much it will actually think and process and give you insights that are very helpful.
It's a whole new, I'm sure you've used this before. I've used it probably too many times, but you ask the question, what question should I haven't asked yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Almost. And that's really you're going towards there is asking what we're not even thinking of because we're limited in our own capacity. I think the one caveat we've seen, and I know I think it's a little bit overstated, but it's still real. You still have to like have some level of knowledge because it does hallucinate at times.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And so you do have to like
even understand to ask it to get back on task.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I would say it's definitely not at the place. I mean, you see a lot of people building these agents and doing all that. And I'm certainly very interested in that as well. But for me, I don't really see it as a way to replace people on our team. I don't think that we'll have less people. I think that we'll actually have much better people because it's a way to take a good employee or a good team member, which I think that our entire team is. It's small, we're in the 30-ish people. So I have a good relationship with everybody on the team. I think it's a way to supercharge them and make them much better at their job. So the value that we provide for our own brands and for our clients is a lot higher with the same amount of people.
It's interesting to talk about this. We recently had a request by a client and doing basically, where should we consider setting up locations, right? Setting up and how quickly we were able to get a really good looking analysis. Once again, you got to know the right question to ask, but something that looks good too, right? A really clean looking set, a model of like, hey, here's an analysis you could do to help make a better decision on how to like expand and grow was powerful. And it's just fun. That to me, I think it's just fun. Right. And I found, so I just think that's fantastic. All right. So getting to some of our common questions that we ask on the podcast regularly. How do you today measure success in your business?
Well, one, profitability. Genuinely believe that the reason why we're in business is to make money and to do it profitably. It's not easy to be in business. think we were even discussing before. I think that business is the ultimate inner game. It's going to show you where you're not good enough and where you need to show up and where you need to improve and do all that. So I definitely would say a successful business is one that's growing and learning and iterating. Anything that's stagnant is actually falling behind.
Yeah, and especially now, right? With the changes that are taking place. I appreciate you saying that and reiterate. I'm going to go on a limb here, but I'm just going to say it just because it's what I'm observing, right? And here we are in early 2025 as we talk about this. In the second quarter of 2025, is that there's a change that's happening in the marketplace right now, and the marketplace is turning to more of a zero-sum game, more than it has in the past, I think. And I believe there's going to be more winners and losers than ever before. And matter of fact, the data is kind of showing this. This year, or in 2024, there was more bankruptcies in business since 2010. And so from that perspective, I'm saying this to listeners, I'm saying this dearly, if you don't get back focused to what matters, meaning driving a profitable business, you're at risk more than ever before, right?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And it's a combination, right? It's not only a combination of the zero sum game. It's the if you're not doing AI, if you're not growing, if you're not thinking, if you're not challenging yourself, somebody else is going to figure it out faster than a report because of just what you just described, right?
Yeah, they're going to do it with less people and a leaner workforce and in a more niche down focus on what they're great at. As we've watched e-commerce mature, it gets harder and harder. And so it's typically not the guy that has the entire in-house team that's crushing it. It's the guy that has a small in-house team and 3 or 4 really good laser-focused vendors. And that seems to be the combination that we're seeing really matter a lot. We don't do any paid media. We only work on the website. But then, we make paid media work better. So when we are on a weekly call with the ad buyers and the owner, everything for the entire business does better. And then, his customer service takes care of that and the fulfillment and those things. It's really a combination of 3 or 4 experts that make these businesses really hum now.
Matt, if you could, I want to just pop over the personal side a bit because I'm curious about you. So you've had the successful business, you've made a lot of changes. What type of personal habits do you do to help make sure you're bringing your best to work each day?
Well, for me, it's been quite a long journey actually, because I've been self-employed since I was 18. But the last 4 or 5 years have been probably my biggest transformation. I went through I had a co-founder and we split about 3 years ago. And what I realized was up until that point, I had always thought I was really smart and a hard worker. Well, we were able to build a pretty successful business by being smart and being a hard worker, but no systems and processes that were outside of that. And so when him and I split, the business suffered a lot because there was parts of it that I didn't enjoy doing and vice versa. And so what I learned is that systems and processes are a lot more important than being smart and being a hard worker. And I asked the question, well, what if I wasn't smart? And that gives me the ability to see a lot of perspectives that if I think I'm right, I'm not really open to. And that little bit of a paradigm shift over the last few years has really changed a lot in the way our business functions and operates now. And the profitability is day and night different.
Good. No, great example there. Thank you. How do you now, when you say you're measuring success and from a personal perspective, how do you measure success in your personal life today?
I want to feel fulfilled and I really enjoy getting up and going to work. And so I think the way that I measure it is the people that I work with on our team and our clients that I would be willing to go on vacation with them. And if I wouldn't, then they're probably not a good fit. And we're kind of in a really unique spot where we get to pick and choose our clients. And so that's been, it's changed my life as far as not coming to work and feeling like I have to do something. I get to do something because I really enjoy and I look forward to helping the people that we're working with succeed.
Literally in a call I just had earlier today, it was a great quote was culture is what you feel like on Sunday night before going to work.
Yeah. I like that.
Right. And I thought that was fantastic. But I also said I appreciate what you said because there's this really fascinating, well, one of my books I have back here, 4 Hour Work Week, right? And I think it's awesome. I do. I think it's awesome when you could automate and do procedures and get to a point where you can be a shareholder of the business. I mean, we teach and we try to coach and we to get people to grow their businesses so they can be a shareholder, right? But there's nothing wrong for enjoying being in the business and delivering value for your clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's okay to like to work. It's fascinating of like this, even if you listen to 4 Hour Work Week, he didn't just like start hanging by the pool the whole time. He did like crazy adventures
Yeah.
to fulfill his need of achievement.
Yep. Yeah. My new CEO, he basically, after he sold those two businesses, he retired, and 6 months later, he was miserable and wanted something else to do. I think most entrepreneurs like being in the battle and like building things that are sustainable or things that are growing. And so, yeah, I can't imagine not working. I don't think I would enjoy that for very long either.
Yeah, it's the great, sorry, quoting a business book title, The Great Game of Business, right? There's joy, right? There's fun, especially when we can create value. And you've described that with your stories you've had today. I see you got a lot of books in your background. What's a book that has inspired you would recommend to our audience?
Well, I just read one, so it's top of mind. It's The Journey to Becoming Remarkable. And it's really, really a good book. It's similar to Jeff Olson's The Slight Edge. And it's just your consistent daily habits and how much they affect your long-term outcomes.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Good. I appreciate that. I have not read that book yet, so I'm going to put that on my list of
It's
books to go
excellent.
through.
Yeah.
Good. How can people connect and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah. Our website is buildgrowscale.com. And my email is just matt@buildgrowscale.com. If you have an e-commerce website or you're selling B2B, B2C through a website, I'd love to do an audit for you or take a look at it and see if it's a good fit.
Great. Perfect. Matt, thank you once again so much for being on the Measure Success podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
To everyone else who's listening, I hope you've enjoyed this. I love listening to entrepreneurs, but more importantly, entrepreneurs have passion for making a difference with their clients and care what they were doing. I highly encourage you to go to buildgrowscale.com. He obviously knows what they're doing. Their team knows what they're doing to help get you. If you are selling products online, highly encourage you to reach out. Obviously, you got to qualify. I love that. You're like, hey, we're not taking everybody, but you're looking at the best who are interested in becoming the best. And this is small, like you're starting with some small. That one example is 15,000 sales, help them to 60 million, right? That's the American dream right there, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So anyways, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. To everyone else listening, I hope you appreciate it. We always appreciate you liking, sharing with others the podcast. Once again, go Measure Success Podcast to find more information and all of our episodes. So we always like to say, wishing you the very best and measuring your success. Have a great day.